our organisation it's a fledgling organisation, but it's not. When I say it's see, we're in solidarity with the people that want to go up there and cast their votes in peace. So at the moment, and look, we can't do anything about it. Orwell Road, all the way outside the embassy, all the way along the street there, has got blue and yellow flags hoisted. I think if we went up there and put Russian flags up, others would take umbrage with that. And also, it kind of baffles me as well. We did have a demo on O'Connell Street a few weeks back, and the same again. There was a shrine to Alexei Navalny on O'Connell Street, and I'm going, why are Irish people and other foreign people in Ireland laying flowers and putting down photos to a guy who called brown people cockroaches and was basically an ultra-nationalist and a neo-Nazi? Like, I don't get that. So basically we're going up there so that people who want to cast their vote don't feel intimidated, because I know there's going to be pro-Ukrainian people up there trying to intimidate them. We're very aware of a few very active guys in the country who are parts of Azov Battalion, Right Sector. They mask around with swastika tattoos, SS insignias and the like, So, I mean, why should ordinary Russian citizens want to go up and cast a vote have to put up with that kind of crap? This is my country, a neutral country. So I have nothing against Ukrainians. Listen, my wife is Russian, but she has Ukrainian roots as well. So, I mean, I've been to Russia umpteen times now. So, I know and plus, even before I met my wife, I had a serious interest in geopolitics as well as domestic politics. So, I know the history of this conflict. I know who's driving it, and I know possibly where it's going as well, which is not good for us all if we continue down that path. So we're about conflict resolution and not conflict escalation. So we're trying to make it be known that we'd like to see the adherence to the Minsk protocols as they were laid out before. Whether that's even possible or not now is debatable though as well, because of how far this war has gone and who's getting involved. And the talk from the collective West about putting boots on the ground in Ukraine and possibly going into Russia if they have to. It's a nonsense. This doesn't bode well for anybody. This could have all been sorted a long, long time ago, but the collective West is choosing to keep on fueling this. And Ukrainians, they're just being fed into the grinder. Like, it's just, as there's umpteen politicians in the West have nonchalantly said we can go to the last Ukrainian. Why? For their ends, it's an outrage. So sorry for the rant, but I know you take it here. I saw your retweet of Bono talking about the coward next door, but the coward is not next door. The coward is in the room, and that's coming from a coward himself. Bono is a pure coward. He's a coward to pay taxes in his country. He's a coward to state facts. He's a coward to let the truth come out. Instead, he's brainwashing. He's part of the globalist cabal that just pump out this nonsense on the daily, and he's not acquainted with the real truth. Or maybe he is, but he just doesn't care. He's paid enough to do, the dirty work of...
Just a couple of things. First of all, most of the people who protest outside the embassy are elderly Irish people. They've got nothing to do with anything.
Listen, they're well entitled to do that. They can do that. That's their right. I mean, protest is your God-given right. Forget about what governments decide. I think to be able to protest is a God-given right. So if those people want to protest, more power to them. I'm not going up there to shout them down. We're going up there to let the people that are casting their votes on the day in the embassy know that we have their backs. They have a right to vote, and they have a right to not feel pressure from the collective West about who should govern. I mean, like if I give you an instance, calling Navalny the leader of the opposition, what was that all about anyway? He's not the guy was a criminal. He was a neo-Nazi. So I'm not sure where the opposition in Russia is actually the Communist Party. You have the New Russia Party and the Communist Party, and incidentally, Putin is running as an independent this time for president. So,
do you think it's a fair election?
Listen, I know how the Russian elections work. It's actually everything is done more correct than it is in our country. The way the ballot is done, the way your privacy is protected when you're casting your vote. I 100% do believe it's a fair election. Would it have been a fair election in the past? I don't know, pre-Putin times? I don't know. But I mean, Putin is just a bad guy. He's just responsible for everything that goes wrong in the West at the moment. I mean, if the weather changes for the bad, it's Putin's fault or it's Russia's fault. It's just. But I'm following this a long time, Ronan. I'm following this a long time. I know. Are you acquainted with the RAND Corporation's 2017 documents extending Russia? Have you read that? I would advise you to start there maybe, and then you can to the new. Sorry, I'm kind of munching here at the moment. I'm just snacking because I don't have much time. But I mean, everybody knows that the Obama State Department orchestrated the coup that went on there in 2014. Everybody heard what Nuland had to say, her involvement in it, bragging about pumping $5 billion. Everybody heard her selecting the next government. Well, Jeffrey Pyatt was like, yeah, I agree. And fuck the EU, I think was her words as well. And then you had, going back, if you want to go back before, after that, I forget, was it Yats? I know there was Yatsenuk, but then Poroshenko came later, who was a complete and utter bastard altogether, who famously said, and I quote, "Our children will go to schools and kindergartens and theirs will live in basements." And he was talking about ethnic Russians in Donbass. And that's what happened for 8 years, Ronan. You can't ignore those facts. Thousands of cases of human rights abuse and murder before the ECHR that were presented about Banderist activity that was going on in eastern Ukraine. Amnesty was aware of this. The UN was aware of this. There's ongoing presentations before the UN about Ukrainian war crimes that get no Western coverage whatsoever. Anne-Laure Bonnell, Christelle Nayant, there's another guy, Jacques, something, I forget his surname. And then you'll have other famous journalists who've been embedded there for a long time. So they're on the ground. And I don't know if you know, but only 2 days ago, it could have been yesterday actually, marked the second anniversary of a Toshka missile strike in Donetsk, on the centre of Donetsk, on a busy morning beside a marketplace that killed 23 people, 23 innocent civilians. They tried to blame this on the Russians just after it, but it was Ukrainian munition because this thing was post or pre-Soviet era, I think, and the ballistics and everything else was made total liars of the Ukrainians, and I think they had to climb down on it afterwards. But Anne-Laure Bonnell and Christelle Nayant were on the ground recording that day, and it's one of the most gruesome things I've ever seen in my life. So. Well, you haven't seen 20 days of Mariupol then, have you? I haven't watched it yet, no, but I mean, and then there's also the poster girl for that, the Mariana girl, the pregnant girl who actually wasn't pregnant at the time, who works as a teacher now in Mariupol, and she's holding a Russian passport. So, I mean, okay, I will give it a watch for pig iron, but I've watched Ukraine on Fire, revealing Oliver Stone's follow up to that as well. I mean, so there's counters to everything, but I do know what happened at the Euromaidan. I know who sponsored, who were the movers and shakers, who promoted that, and I know who went in and selected a government after that, and I know why we are where we're at the moment. I also know about Biden bribing Poroshenko to the tune of $1 billion to get the chief prosecutor in Ukraine fired because he was looking into a case involving Burisma because his son was on the board of it. And everything I'm telling you now, absolutely everything I'm telling you is verifiable. Those words came out of Biden's mouth. He was bragging about how he said, you're not getting the $1 billion. If he's not fired, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If he's not fired, you're not getting the $1 billion. And then he said, son of a bitch, I got a phone call. And then he said they got in someone decent. Because this guy was investigating his son. I mean, but I tell you, read the RAND Corporation documents, extending Russia, competing for strategic advantage. You read that and then you know why we're at in the world where we're at now. So,
okay. Who is involved in your organisation? Because you have a photograph online of some people, including somebody from the embassy.
Somebody from the embassy? There's nobody from the embassy in the photo.
Is there not?
No. I'm in the photo. Bill O'Brien is in the photo. He's our chairman, who I can give you his number if you want to, if you'd like to speak to him as well. And then we have some Russian people. We've support, and then we've got support from people from the Baltics as well. People with Russian roots, with Russian background who understand. We've had Donetsk residents, at our rallies, and these are people who have lived through this. When Poroshenko said you're going to live in basements, those people were forced to live in basements until the Russians came in, and it's very unfortunate that did have to happen. But have you seen Bogdan Bogdanovic's statement about at least 1.5 million superfluous ethnic Russians in Donbass, and how he in Donetsk, and his way of dealing with them was to exterminate them. He said Donbass is very important to us for the agricultural and industrial aspect of it, but the people there, not so much. They need to be exterminated. This is a journalist in Ukraine, who went on national TV. And I'll quote you a more recent thing that was said by Mikhail Podolyak of the SBU, an advisor to Zelensky. Are you aware of this one?
I've heard of it, yeah, just remind me.
So basically they were talking about Joseph Borrell, saying that, he's committed to our cause, and has said that the EU funding and aid will continue. And Podolyak said that's what came from this guy's mouth. So, what does he mean by that? What's your guess on that?
Well, I think he's thinking that there could be World War III. I suspect that's what he means,
Yeah, right. Or maybe the guys with the swastika tattoos and the Bandera portraits that I've seen walking around Dublin in the warm weather, when they don't mind showing them off. Maybe he means they'll be active in Europe. So, we've got a justice minister rolling out hate speech laws while we bring in guys with swastika tattoos and Bandera portraits, SS insignias, and pictures of the Ukrainian flag with silhouette snipers in the background. What is that about? What is that about?
Do you know of battalion Ukrainian soldiers in Ireland, or Ukrainian people in Ireland?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And where are they?
There's a couple of them in Dublin. There's a couple of them. Yeah, they're involved in a lot of shady stuff as well. I can see their Facebook and Instagram profiles. I have them sent to me because they infiltrate Telegram groups and things like that here. So, and then they try to. I have some Russian friends as well who they try to befriend, or they're trying to get into, relationship wise. But then they see what kind of people they're dealing with. They don't want to have a relationship with a Nazi. So, and as I said, this is another thing for you. Normally I go to Russia for New Year we celebrate New Year over there. This year I extended the holiday because we hadn't had our honeymoon. I was only married in Moscow in August. But we spent time in Yalta, Simferopol and Sevastopol. And the whole time I was there, not one person did I meet who wanted to have a blue and yellow flag flying over their head. Not a single person. And the West claims that's Ukrainian territory. It's historically Russian, but if you want to go back to the 50s or whatever, whenever it was that Khrushchev decided to gift it, before that it's historically Russian. So, I mean, there's nobody there. I've seen, that's my first time seeing Crimea, but I will be back. But everybody there was talking about the progress that's being made there. The building up of their tourism, of their wine is a big thing there. But everything, like their lifestyle, their standard of living, everything is on the up and up over there under the Russian flag. They've no desire to be Ukrainian again. So, I mean, that's just another instance. But then there's the whole. And I think at the outbreak of this, I think there was a bit of Russophobia. There was a bit of story. They're like, oh, Putin's the madman. Now I think a lot more people are understanding. The more that it goes on, and the more comes out about shady dealings within the Ukrainian government, if you look at who's in the Rada anyway, they're all right sector. They're all ultra nationalists. These are twisted people and corrupt as hell. And the money and the aid that's being sent there, there's no accountability for either. That's another thing that we don't seem to care about. But, Slavic, Ukrainian, and we stand by Ukraine? And that's another thing as well. Varadkar just recently coming out and saying we stand by Ukraine. Who is he speaking for? He's not speaking for me and most of the Irish people I know.
There's just two short questions I just want to end it with. The first one is you claim that you said in your post basically, you asked Don Consul to take down these Ukrainian flags. Those Ukrainian flags have been there for the last 2 years. I mean, they're not there to intimidate voters going to the poll.
That's fair enough, Ronan. That's fair enough. But I still find that why the concentration of them in around the Russian embassy? That's intimidation. To me, that's a provocation. So if I want to go around, if I want to go around putting up Russian flags all around the place, is that okay? I'm not asking, can I do that? But is that okay if I do? There's people going to take umbrage with that, and that's because of what they've been brainwashed with. So, I'm not going up there to argue with any old people. I'm not even going up there to argue with anybody at all. We're going up there to make a point. And we're going to tell the Russian people, we're going to tell the Russian community in Ireland that we've got your back, that our government, the current government who are there without a mandate anyway, don't speak for us. I know that this councillor, Jim O'Leary, who I spoke with the other day, he's a Fine Gael guy. He said we shouldn't be neutral anyway. He feels we shouldn't be neutral. And he cares less for Russians and their feelings. So...
how many people are you expected to have there on Sunday?
No, we're only going to have a small contingent because the consulate don't want... I think the consulate are nervous about any kind of, altercations or maybe some people getting into arguments. That's not going to happen. That's not why I'm there. I'm there to spread a message that what we're about, as I said, is conflict resolution, not conflict escalation. We advocate for the implementation of the Minsk protocols, and we're curious to know why the West have scuppered peace deals. Like, it looks like 3 times the peace deals were on the table with signatures. The first time Boris Johnson wrecked it, and that was at Biden's behest, because Biden couldn't be there. I know the Israeli peace deal, the time the Israelis were mediating, again, the West interfered then. There's a chance for peace with these people. And these people are intertwined in more ways than you know. They're, like, by marriage. They're Slavic brothers and sisters. We have no right interfering in that. This should have been left. By all means, have mediation. But this should have been left to be resolved in a peaceful way. This never had to come to this. But you've got serious amount of Nazi activity and a mowing of the lawn similar to what was going on in Gaza, maybe actually on a bigger scale even, by the AFU, and they had planned an even bigger genocide. And that's, I don't know, again, maybe you're not aware of that. They were amassing formations all along the lines of Donetsk and Lugansk. Right before the Russians went in, they had 80,000. I think they were waiting until they had 100 to 120,000 to go in and just commit absolute slaughter. But they were slaughtering, and like the slaughter wasn't enough already. You know, it's just unreal. I have the most graphic footage that you could ever see in your life of some of the crimes that these guys have committed. Absolutely, and you can't unsee this once you've seen it. I've seen the treatment of Russian POWs by the AFU, and it's not reciprocated the other way around. Bodies are not disposed of, or they're not even disposed. When Ukrainian soldiers are killed, their bodies are treated with respect. I mean, and they're put in proper, like, maybe not the highest standard of coffin you'll ever see, but they're not dumped into black bags or mass graves. It's an outrage, absolute outrage. So.
Just one other thing is, you have one of the people that's involved with you, your coordinator, is JJ Connolly. I mean, this is a guy who was jailed in 2000 for a mortar bomb, having a mortar bomb in his possession.
John, yeah.
What do you look? Is that the type of guy that should be involved in your organisation?
Look, he has a history. I think he's leaving his past in the past. I mean, look, we're taking criminals into the country, and we're asking Irish people to forgive them for their history, you know. So, what John has done in the past, I don't know. I don't know the full extent of what he's been involved with, but to me, now, he presents himself as a fair guy, someone who's, how would you say, he shares the same goals as us. We want to see conflict resolution, not escalation. I mean, the possible escalation that can happen involves us all. It might mean the death of us all. So.
Okay. Well, listen, Pat, I appreciate your phone call and just taking my call and for giving me a very lengthy what's the word?
Well, I mean, I could sit down with you for a lot longer and talk about this whole thing, and I'm willing to listen to your side of what you might have to say. I know as a journalist you're meant to be non-biased, but I see some of your retweets show me that you've picked a side in this. But I mean, do you know the side that you're picking? Do you really know? Do you know the history? Do you know the depth of how far this goes? And like, I know Bono's an icon to a lot of people as well, but him say his name, Alexei Navalny, I'm going to say it because Putin wouldn't say it. He sounds like an awful clown because he's repeating the name of a guy. Now, I still wouldn't have wished death on the guy. And then there's a lot of speculation as well, unfair speculation about how he died. Nonetheless, he was a neo-Nazi. He did say brown people were cockroaches and they were good for nothing. And he said a lot worse. He went to a lot of rallies. I heard it said that he was involved in Nazi youth. But the rallies that I see him at is definitely in his mid-30s, if not closing in on 40. When he's there at the front of rallies, pumping the fist out as if he's, saying Heil Hitler or Slavic, whatever the hell he was. I think Navalny would have been more comfortable in the east side of Ukraine with the Banderists. The guys with the swastika tattoos and the Bandera portraits, because that's not what Russia is about. I've been to Russia many, many times, and it's a secular country. And there's Orthodox churches right next door to mosques, and everybody intertwines and intermingles, and it's so harmonious, it's unreal. We can only dream of having that here. Interesting
point. Well, look,
yeah.
Pat, thanks for speaking to me, and And
I can give you Bill's number. I think you'll find Bill a very interesting guy as well.
I have it here online. So I need to drive home. I'm actually out of the room, so I need to drive home before I give him a call, all right?
Yeah. I'll tell him to expect the call then, so. Because Bill is he's a little older, he's a little wiser, and he's an interesting guy as well. And he can probably give you some more insights. I get very passionate and I get very head up about when I'm talking about some of this. But Bill is very level-headed, very calm and collected, and he's a wise head on his shoulders. And I'm sure you'll find him an interesting guy if you're not familiar with him already. But he's been involved with anti-war movements for a long time now. So, you know.
I'll give it when I get home.
Okay.
All right, listen, thanks very much for taking my call. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for your time. Cheers, Ronan. Thank you.